Hello and welcome. I'm Vijay Srinivas. Prime Minister Modi and UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer have finally agreed on a free trade agreement after Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and his UK counterpart Jonathan Reynolds have signed and formalized the free trade agreement after months and months of negotiations in London this morning. The free trade agreement is expected to boost trade about $35 billion annually for both nations. Joining me to discuss more is trade economist Mr. Professor Biswajit Dhar. And thank you very much indeed for your time. So I would like to begin with you there. The free trade agreement, what's the big takeaway for India?
Yeah, India's biggest takeaway is that uh, tariffs on almost 99% of India's exports to the UK will be down to zero. That means that they're going to be duty free, and
Hmm.
the estimates are that almost this is covering almost the entire trade. There are certain advantages also that are there in the services sector. The most
Hmm.
important of these being the double contribution convention agreement, wherein the Indian workers and the employees would not have to pay social security contributions for the next 3 years. Again, that is a big incentive for the Indian workers. Now, of course, India is doing this deal with one of the largest economies,
That's
and
right.
this is the first, I would say, major
Hmm.
comprehensive trade agreement, the Comprehensive Economic
Absolutely.
and Trade Agreement, with a P5 country, and
Hmm.
that's, I think, this is paving the way for India's engagements with the European Union, which I think we are expecting the trade agreement soon, and with the US. So
Hmm.
this is a completely new chapter in India's bilateral free trade agreement engagements,
That's
and
right.
with when large economies become your partners, of course there is plenty of opportunities available for the Indian businesses to expand their footprint in the international market.
That's right. So, with tariffs on Scotch whisky and British cars sharply reduced right now, how will Indian domestic industries be responding to this influx of premium imports from the United Kingdom?
Of course, this was expected, and I'm sure that the Indian industry, in both in case of the liquor industry and the automobile industry, would have
That's right.
prepared themselves somewhat for this eventuality. Because in case of whiskey, the India and the UK have been talking about reducing tariffs for a very long time.
Yeah.
So one would expect that the Indian industry would have got a fairly long lead time for it to prepare itself properly. Now, in the case of automobiles, of course, automobile tariffs are expected to come down to 10%. Now, I'm saying expected because some of the technical details are yet to be known, because we still don't have the text of the agreement. So we have to see the details. But what we have been told is that along with reducing tariffs, India will also be allowed to regulate imports of British cars into India, and
Hmm.
using what we call tariff rate quotas. So there'll be quotas on imports of British cars. So it won't be the case that there's going to be a sudden surge of imports into India. Imports will be regulated. But of course, there are other areas of concern, and I want to highlight a few areas of concern that I have. The first being, the whole issue of regulatory standards,
Okay.
because the developed countries bring with them a whole host of regulations, and the
Hmm.
first of these that come to mind are labor standards and environmental standards.
Hmm.
Now, there is going to be a carbon tax imposed, somewhere down the line by the British government,
That's
and
right.
there will be an impact of the carbon tax also on Indian exports to the UK. So we'll have to wait and watch how this actually pans out, because initially, as the EU has also proposed, there's going to be only a few sectors on which carbon tax will be imposed, and then it will be gradually increased. So we'll
Totally.
have to see how that happens. The more important, in my view, will be the labor standards, where the UK expects us to impose or to accept the ILO standards on on labor rights. And as you know, that the government of India favors a flexible labor market,
Hmm.
which is the demand of Indian industry. But this is going to be a problem, because now we will have to provide higher standards of for labor rights in conformity with the ILO standards. Now, what does this means is that look, India has been expecting a lot of market access in labor intensive products,
That's right.
and of course our exports have higher labor content. And the business model that Indian industry or Indian businesses have adopted is of wage arbitrage, which basically means that they try to put keep wages low, and to make the most in the international market. Now, if labor standards are imposed, and this is the first agreement which is going to which bringing on us this kind of an obligation, maintaining this kind of a business model of of wage arbitrage is going to be difficult. The other issues that I would like to highlight, and again we don't have any clarity on how this is going to happen, is on intellectual property rights. Of course, US like the US and other developed countries, UK also favors stronger intellectual property rights, favoring the innovators. Now,
Hmm.
India, we all know that we have. Our Patents Act has a lot of flexibilities favoring our generic industry, and that is being done to keep prices of medicines down. And if there is insistence on the part of the UK going forward to have stronger intellectual property rights, and making us amend our Patents Act, that could be bad news for us. So,
Okay.
so to begin with, I just wanted to flag these issues, which are some areas of concern.
Okay, I also want to keep the spotlight on the opportunities here. Indian textiles, engineering and EV manufacturers are getting duty free or low tariff access to the UK market right now. But which sectors do you think could actually be able to seize the opportunity most effectively?
Well, that's a very good question, because the in the past, what we have seen is that Indian businesses have not been able to take advantage of the market access opening on the other side
That's right.
because of lack of preparedness. See, we
Yep.
all know that Indian industry lacks competitiveness,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and the same goes for most of the service sectors as well. So, except the ITES sectors, most of other service sectors are also low on competitiveness. Now, we were expecting that in the manufacturing sector, at least, the production linked incentive scheme would help us make our industry our manufacturing sector more competitive. But in the past 5 years, unfortunately, we haven't seen this scheme go very far.
Hmm.
So I think there is a big challenge that the Indian businesses have, and that is that we need to prepare ourselves effectively in order to take advantage. Otherwise, this is going to be another case of a missed opportunity. And like it has happened in other FTAs, we'll end up asking for reviews, and because we haven't been able to take advantage of the market opening.
But the government of India says, look, I just want to focus the PLI part that you actually talked about. The government of India says, look, it's been a stellar success, particularly in the field of electronics manufacturing. Obviously, we couldn't do it in a broader spectrum, but I think as far as electronic component manufacturing is concerned, the PLI was certainly a success with Foxconn and different technologies of the world coming in, playing a pivotal role. How do you see it?
No, see basically, if you have 14 sectors lined up under the
Hmm.
scheme, and you have only one or two success stories, electronics, some of these sectors, and mobile phones,
That's
then
right.
I think one can say that the scheme is not going any very far. So one had to actually, because these sectors were carefully selected, because these are the sectors which were facing strong competition from China. And we know how the Chinese compete in the global market. So even if we want to get additional access into the British market, we have to
Hmm.
overcome the competition from the Chinese. And then
Hmm.
therefore, I think it's very important for us to redouble efforts and make our manufacturing sector more competitive. Even in case of agriculture, I would say that, look, there are expectations, and I think our government of India's press release talks about advantages that we are going to be seeing in the agricultural sector as well. Now, in agricultural sector, this is the sector which is really struggling. We all
That's right.
know that for decades, agriculture has been in crisis. And again, in terms of getting better market access in agriculture, what is required to be done is to improve our product quality. There
Hmm.
are food safety standards, and these
So
are,
true.
like I mentioned earlier, that there are a lot of these regulatory standards that are very important, and we need to redouble our efforts. So I think the short point I'm making here is that we now have to look at ourselves. The trade negotiations are done, the deal is done. Now the ball is entirely in our court. How best we can take advantage of this trade agreement, and how best we can get
Perform.
access into this large the British
Highly
uh,
competitive market, you mean.
economy started growing. So that is an issue for us.
Interesting, interesting. I also wanted to, touch upon this factor as well. The Modi government's mantra has been to, sort of strike a lot of FTAs as much as possible. We are on an FTA spree in a way. Mr. Piyush Goyal is at the forefront of this, but we also miss this opportunity of the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive
That's
Economic
right.
Partnership with the Southeast Asian countries. Do you still believe, sir, that this FTAs would add up to a comprehensive, sort of a trade partnership, something with the Southeast Asia, the multilateral forum like that? You think is it something that can be compared or sort of seen as an equivalent to what the RCEP could actually offer, or you think we missed the bus there?
No, I think see, like I said, that in RCEP, why did we walk away from RCEP? Again, this factor that I'm talking about, that we felt that
Competitiveness.
we will not be able to compete with with the Chinese,
Absolutely.
and that's
Right.
a real fear. Yeah, and again, there were also fears about the competition from Australian wheat, or New Zealand dairy. So all these sectors, the fear of competition that our domestic businesses face in all these sectors actually forced us to take a step back. Now,
Hmm.
this is the point I'm making, that if we take, now we have taken the big leap. Like I said, that this is the first big trade agreement that we have signed,
That's
and
right.
since we have taken this big leap, I think we need to now start looking at how quickly we can turn
Hmm.
things around domestically. And this is very important. And let me also say, also point out that there have been some assessments made by the British government on the benefits that it's going to be getting out of this trade agreement. Now, the estimates that the British government has given us is that the benefit, the gains for the British economy, uh, the trade gains, both goods and services, will be 60% higher than that of India's. Now, that's a big gap. So they're saying that the British economy is going to, the uh, trade in goods and services will increase by almost 16 billion pounds every year, and in case of India, it's going to be about 10 billion pounds. So that's a huge gap. Now, I think the challenge for us, when you look at these numbers, we have to look at these numbers, and look at these numbers as a challenge. How do we also increase our benefits and make it comparable to that of the UK? And unless we do that, unless we take this as a major challenge, we will not be able to engage productively in any of these FTAs. And I think at some point we need to look at ourselves, because
Mm-hmm.
we have this whole big neighborhood, uh, and it's been a very dynamic region of the world, and we need to engage with this region comprehensively without any fears of competition.
Professor Dhar, you've been a seasoned trade economist there. We don't really have an understanding of how all these sort of negotiations happen in the back end. But I think this agreement certainly took about close to 3 years, right? Months and months of negotiations, stop-start negotiations, actually. But what were the key sticking points, and how were they? You think could have been resolved earlier?
No, I think, see, our problem always has been that we are afraid of facing competition. We are afraid of opening markets, be it goods, be it
Extremely
services.
protectionist mentality. That's right.
Extremely protectionist, and this whole protectionist mindset hasn't gone away,
That's right.
despite the fact that we have lived with this trade liberalization for now 3.5 decades, more than 3.5 decades. But this protectionist mindset hasn't gone. So we really want like to remain within this kind of behind the tariff walls, and exploit the domestic market as much as we can.
Mm.
So our mindset has to change, and the mindset change can come only when we work, towards making our industry, our services sector more competitive. That is for the government and the business to actually sit together and find the shortest route to make our services and manufacturing, also agriculture, really competitive, making it globally competitive. If other smaller countries have become so competitive, and they can trade so successfully in the global space, now why can't we? So I've always wondered, as a trade economist and also as a negotiator, that I'm very unhappy that we have this very sort of defensive mindset. We're not aggressive enough. We can't actually go and tell our partner countries, well, open up these markets. We want to actually come and exploit your
Mm.
markets. We don't have that kind of an agenda. We are always trying to sit back and trying to protect our market, and sort of adopt a kind of a safety first approach.
Okay, interesting. The UK is already a top investor in India. It's one of those top nations there in
Right,
the top 10. So,
right.
does the FTA, the Free Trade Agreement, include provisions that could accelerate foreign direct investment into sectors like green tech, or sort of education, digital services, so on? You see that after the trade deal?
No, surely that's certainly a possibility. And
Hmm.
here again, I think successive governments have been talking about ease of doing business. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and but if you go down and talk to any entrepreneur, foreign or Indian, they actually been telling us that the cost of doing business has actually not come down. It remains quite high. So again, there I think it's very important for the government to really look at what are the obstacles, and here of course the center and the states have to work closely together. Look at the infrastructural facilities available for the foreign investors to come and invest in this country. Now, foreign investors don't, look, it'll be foolhardy to think that the foreign investors will come here to develop India. They won't do that. They will come here to make money. And it's our challenge to see how, while they make money, we make the most of their presence in India. And for that, we have to provide world class infrastructure. We'll have to provide proper connectivity. And some of the things that the government is now doing, in modernization of ports and stuff like that. Only when these things happen, yeah, like you and I are talking on online, but we all know that the internet connectivity, the
Hmm.
brand the the bandwidth available in this country is not really needs to be improved. So
That's right.
once we actually improve our infrastructure, both all manner of infrastructure, that is when we can take the maximum advantage of foreign investors, because the foreign investors will then get drawn into this country if you have enough skilled manpower, Yeah.
Hmm.
Then the foreign investor is not going to sit in anywhere, but they will come into India, because then they know that they can make the most of the skilled manpower that is available in this country. So that's again the point that I've been emphasizing, that this is now the opportunity, the big opportunity for us to look at where are the areas in which we have, we lack in terms of the global standards, and how we can make ourselves up to the global standards, and move there up in in quick time, because time is not on our side now. We have to do it in really fast, and only when will do that can we take the maximum advantage of the India UK setup.
Okay, I also want to focus on the services. It contributes majorly to the India's GDP as well. There, over 50%. So services are a major pillar of India's exports as well. So
Right.
what gains, if any, does this agreement offer for the Indian IT sector and legal and then the BFSI?
Now, I think, as I said, that we need to look at the
That's the
fine
final.
print. We look at the schedules, the detailed schedules, the services schedules that will come, and we'll have to see what kind of market access will be there. But let at the but at the beginning, I had actually mentioned about the double contribution this agreement, where the social security payments that from which we have actually got the exemptions, that of course will stand us in good stead, and we hope that the British economy will keep growing, because only when a partner country grows will there be opportunities for us and our workers and employees to find jobs in that market. Because the moment country stops growing, then it becomes more protectionist and becomes all the anti-immigrant sentiment come in, and so that's very important for us. Yeah.
Okay, the Prime Minister had talked about, we already spoke about farms, right? The Prime Minister, after
Yeah.
signing the sort of the agreement, he said, it's going to be a major boost for the MSMEs and the startups and all that. So, how will this agreement, affect Indian MSMEs and startups, especially for those who are looking out for a global expansion, particularly in the UK? Because startups certainly have huge exposure to to the European market and the US market. Uh, I personally don't really think so that they have more exposure to the UK, but if you disagree, sir, please.
No, you look, see, we know that the MSMEs are really the sector which can push our exports, and
Hmm.
we can gain a lot by promoting the MSME sectors. But again, I'm saying that the MSME sector has faced a lot of headwinds, and that's continued to face a lot of headwinds. Now, I often found that while we expect a lot to be delivered by the MSMEs,
MSMEs, yeah.
we don't contribute enough to making the MSMEs more competitive. Yeah?
Hmm.
A lot of hand holding is required for the MSMEs, including availability of credit and all kinds of other facilities, in
That's right.
order that they can become more competitive. Because, like I said, that most of these MSMEs are into labor intensive product lines, and in the labor intensive product lines, if we think that we are going to be following the old business model of pushing wages down and then selling cheap in the international market, that model is not going to work with the UK anymore. As I said, that the labor standards are going to come in here. So there's only one way we can do it, which is that we have to make our manufacturing sector, and especially the MSMEs, more competitive. So
That's right.
infusion of more technology, and that's something that the government needs to promote, because India's innovation ecosystem, needs a major revamp,
That's
and
right.
and if the innovation ecosystem can be ramped up, then that can actually feed into the benefits from that ecosystem can actually be taken advantage of by the MSME sector, and that will be an extremely favorable kind of a situation, the win-win situation that we're looking for.
One last question there before we wrap this up, sir. Given that UK is no longer a part of the United European Union after the Brexit, how does this FTA enhance India's access to the European market?
Look, I think it won't be very far before we see the India EU FTA happen. Because once we have seen the India UK FTA being signed, then there'll be political pressure on India, on us actually, because the EU is more than ready to sign it anytime. They would have signed it yesterday. So there's a lot of political pressure on us to sign, the FTA with the European Union, and so these two agreements will run parallelly, in my view. They should look very similar because the UK had taken the template, the FTA template, from the European Union, and we know it for a fact because we have been doing these negotiations with the European Union since 2007. So it's
That's right.
almost a mirror, a carbon copy of the EU agreement, and so these two agreements will sort of run parallelly, and therefore in the large sort of European market, uh, we should have a considerable advantage now because of the preferential market access that our products are going to be experiencing.
Thank you very much, sir. Insightful talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.